Hey everyone, how you guys doing? It's Dr. Mondo, catching me on my walk back from the office, doing some office hours here today. I'm here to take all the questions you guys have about your journey in the Rewriting My Story program. We just got done with another fun week of the program. There's some gyms that I know some people are joining in. Hey, what's going on, Adam? Adam Sudd is on here. He was a guest on our show. If you guys haven't seen that, go back and check out, I think it was like the second or the third episode that we have, but it was amazing. And Adam and I are still trying to figure out scheduling. Unfortunately, haven't gotten a date nailed down, but we're going to nail down a time. Definitely want to get you back on, man. And I know that you just did, I think, another show today that I was going to check out later. So good to hear from you. What's going on in your world? Let me know what you're up to. Yeah, we're just here today to talk more about how you guys are doing. If you guys have any questions, I can't wait either, Adam. I know, man, we had so much that was left that we needed to kind of pick up from. I think we only got to like part one of your story. So we need like a part two, and I know we're gonna get that the next time that we get a chance to get together. So let's make sure that happens the next month. Definitely need to work that out in the calendar. But yeah, you guys, I'm going to answer some questions that I've gotten after the broadcast that I had on Tuesday night. If anyone saw that, it was with Tim and Heather Kaufman, an amazing couple who lost over, I want to say 280 pounds together. And it is so rare to lose that much weight between two people, let alone to do it in a relationship, let alone to do it at various points in time. They didn't start together, but they stuck together. And there's so many great things we heard in part one of their interview the first time they were on the show that we got to hear some follow-up points, some ideas. This last interview, if you didn't catch it on Tuesday night, it was more really about some topical points that I think a lot of you guys have questions about. So go back and watch that video. It is in the video section of this page. It's a great interview. They talked about, the scale. They talked about cheat days. They talked about just so many amazing different subtopics that sometimes we don't get to cover in those broadcasts. So really important to check that out. Make sure you guys do. I want to say also what's up to the people who are doing the program right now out in Chicago, Fit Code family. If you guys are here from Fit Code, let us know by liking this video or give us something to let you know that you are here. And also we have people who are in the program right now out from Kansas City, and that's Bar None Training Gym. That's Wilson Thomas's gym out there. So if you're here from Bar None Training, let us know. But you guys right now are in the home stretch of the program, and the Rewriting Your Story program actually has a stage called Rewrite Your Story, and it's stage 5. So if you guys are on that stage, what you're starting to contemplate now is what is my story that I've currently been living out in terms of what are the ethics, the values, the things that I would say, if people were to write, unfortunately, people were to write my obituary, what would they be talking about? What would they be talking about at my funeral? It sounds like a morbid thought, but we really need to sometimes reflect on how intentional we are about living out the things that are important to us in life. Are we really about what we say we're about? Are we really living out the things that are important to us? So in stage 5, what you do is you're looking at your story and you're saying, what are some things right now that I want to live out that maybe I'm not doing as good of a job living out? And what would it look like to take a step forward in that direction? We're not saying that you have to lose weight, but often what happens is in order to fulfill the things that you want to live out, your health becomes a part of the transformation. It becomes a part of the equation. For me, one of the things that I have on both sides, some of you guys probably have this on both sides of my family, is that there is, a history of heart attacks or a history of, of negative health conditions related to obesity. So for me, what motivates me long term to rewrite my story is I want to rewrite that as a course for not just me, but a course for my kids and a course for the next generation that comes after that. And so that's something that sounds really big and hard to wrap your head around, but it's something that I try to wrap my head around at times to stay motivated. And I think that in rewriting your story, stage 5, we go back to stage 2 a little bit. Your reason for losing weight or your reason for getting healthy, and those things kind of build on one another. So for you guys that are at that stage, or you've gone through that stage, you're still reflecting on it, I would love to hear more questions you guys have about stage 5 of the Rewriting Your Story program. The other thing I want to talk about is this question that I got a few times actually, and it was from the Kansas City gym. And the Kansas City gym, bar none, has asked this question a few different times, and I've heard it. I always hear it from every gym. And I'll probably spend, if there's no other big questions that come my way, I'll probably spend the majority of the rest of these office hours talking about it, because I think it's so important. And it's this question of, I started your program, the Rewrite Your Story program, because I knew that the psychological side of my journey mattered. I knew that my story that I'm telling about myself or living out could be rewritten in a way that I want to rewrite it. And I also know that my relationship with food is not just all about calories in, calories out, that I have an emotional relationship with food, and I want to renegotiate that. But at what point do I know that I need more than just the program? At what point do I know I need therapy? That's the question that a lot. So I wanted to make sure that I answered that question for you guys. There's some videos, first of all. If you go to stage 1 in the program, stage 1 has videos that talk about how do I know it's time for therapy? What are some keys that I should be looking for? Some indicator lights, so to speak. There's also some more in that video that talks about how to reach out to a therapist. I just want to say this, that, therapy, I've mentioned this in my talks a lot, but therapy is not what it used to be in terms of, people sometimes when they think of therapy, they think of it as being this super negative thing, and, there's a lot of stigma attached to it. I really think that we've advanced a lot as a society to getting to a point now where we don't see therapy as this really negative, stigmatizing thing quite as much as we used to. Not saying there isn't some stigma attached to it, but it's not a sign of weakness. So first of all, if we're talking about when do I need to go to therapy, it's not a negative thing. Your therapist goes to therapy. I go to therapy. We all need therapy. Therapy can actually be a great tool, a great space. I always say, we live in a society where so many of us are disconnected. We're living isolated lives. We don't have people in our lives that we feel like listen well or listen closely, or who can reflect back to us. And we are all creatures where we were designed to need that. There was a certain point where our society was designed in a way where community just had that sort of thing built in. But because we don't have it built in, a lot of us are running at a deficit and needing it. We need more community. We need more of a sense of someone sitting and listening to us empathetically. So I would argue that even if your life is great right now, you could probably still find some benefit from therapy. And that doesn't mean something's wrong with you. So it's really important to mention that. But as far as going through this program, the program's getting at a lot of different things, and you're not sitting in front of a therapist. You're sitting in front of the video form of one, right? In these lessons where I'm coaching you guys, it's not a therapy program. So when do you know it's time to go to therapy? I think everyone at some point should, if you're doing the program and you're really doing the work and you're diving in, at some point you should really probably be saying to yourself, yeah, it's time to go to therapy. I think in a perfect world, therapy is a natural next step after you've done the program. So as you are going through the program, kind of like this, I might have to stop here. This is a nice little space to stop at. Right around the corner from my house. I didn't even know this little spot existed. I'm not sure quite what it is. Is it an office building? Anyway. I honestly think that if you're doing the program and you're doing the stages, at a certain point, you're all going to come to a point where you go, I need some long-term therapy. And that's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean that you're crazy. It's actually really good, because if you're doing the program at a high level, you're uncovering certain things in your story that you probably haven't dealt with yet. You probably haven't gotten healing around. It's time to let go of those things. It's time to find healing around some of those things. And you need someone to kind of help facilitate that next step of the process. in most cases. So in most cases, how do you know you need therapy? If you're really doing the program, certain things will be coming up to you in the program, things from your past. So you'll find that there's certain relationship stuff that maybe you need to sit with someone in front of and you need to talk through. Maybe you find there's certain dynamics in your current relationship with your husband, your wife, your partner, your significant other, friends, family that need to be worked through, and you need someone to come inside that situation who's not in your life directly, but to help you rectify those things. So often the program leads to therapy. Not always. It's not an absolute, but often the program uncovers things that lead to therapy. If you find that there's certain traumatic events in your life that you have found have keyed off some of these patterns we find ourselves in of using food for comfort, to cope and to numb and to distance ourselves from our feelings, that's a great opportunity to see. The program gives you a chance to see a window into that. The program gives you tools to be able to start learning how to get back in touch with your feelings and your body, learning how to just notice some of this stuff and allow it to come in. But you probably still would benefit from taking one extra step in getting someone to sit with you who's trained in trauma, for example, to help you heal that trauma in a more complete way than the program can do in and of itself. So, these are just a couple things that are going to come up that I think are good indicators. So again, stuff that you're uncovering from your past, especially trauma, that's a great opportunity. And I say that again, it's an opportunity for healing. That whole Ray Dalio quote that I keep using over and over, pain plus reflection equals growth. So therapy is a place where you can reflect. This program is a place where you can reflect. But you need pain in order to grow, just like you need reflection in order to grow. So again, you need the pain. The pain is good. The pain's an opportunity, as is therapy, because therapy is a time to reflect, as is the Rewriting Your Story program. It's an opportunity to reflect on some things that you otherwise wouldn't, and take that opportunity. So seize the moment, seize the opportunity. A lot of times what happens is that we get stuck in these cycles of using food for comfort. We get stuck in these cycles of and again, when I say use food for comfort, for some of us, it's not just food. It's alcohol, it's shopping, it's sex, it's Facebook likes, it's anything that makes us feel good, but separates us. Sorry, a large cement truck is going by. He didn't see the live in broadcasting sign down the street. It's all right. We'll let it slide. But anything that you see in those areas that could potentially seem to be bad parts of yourself, they're opportunities to heal and grow. And often when we get in these cycles of using food, all those other things I just mentioned, we're just simply kind of like getting by without ever getting in touch with our feelings. And it is so important to be a whole person and be connected to yourself, to be connected to your feeling process. And that's what therapy can help you do. So again, in order to really maximize that, I really strongly consider that at a certain point, you do want to jump into therapy after doing this program. So that covers that. So again, that question came from the Kansas City Bar None crew. When do I know that therapy is right? The other question then becomes, okay, so great. I know that I identify with it's time for therapy. How do I find a therapist? So first of all, what we're in the process of doing as a result of this need and this desire from a lot of the different gyms that are carrying the program throughout the country is we're putting together a training program that we can train therapists in your cities to be familiar with our program, but also be vetted on our end to know that they're good therapists, and that we could then develop a network where essentially, as soon as you say, I'm ready for therapy, they can raise their hand and be able to say, I can help. So we're working on that, but we're not quite there yet. And so, you have to do what all of us have to do then at this point, which is you need to hop on the internet and you need to, type in Google. Psychology Today is a great resource. They have it in just about every city throughout the country. And Psychology Today has profiles where you could look at the profiles of us therapists. You'll see bios and you'll see pictures. You'll see our specialties. You'll see a message from us that tells you, what our philosophies are and what we think about change and what we think about strengths and weaknesses. And really, you'll get a snapshot feel for who that therapist is. And there's even links to websites and things like that The next step is to find a therapist in your area, and then to reach out and send an email or a phone call. And honestly, for me, if most of the time when people call me, and I hear this a lot of times, when people call therapists, it's hard for therapists to have the time to sit down and call someone back. It's easier for them to email and answer some questions over email and then set up an appointment. And it's not that therapists don't care, it's just that, you can imagine being a therapist that, I'm coming from session right now. I gave everything I had, just like an athlete does. You give everything you have in those sessions. When you get out of session, sometimes there's not a whole lot you have left to give. And people, when they're in a spot of needing help, often they need to kind of have someone there and supporting them. So often I don't feel in a great spot to call someone back. And so I put off phone calls, but I'm much more likely to email someone directly back and set up a time where they can come in, and then they can be the person that's sitting in front of me, so I can give them my full attention. I can give them the full capacity of listening and being me and what I need to support them. So I would recommend that if you find a therapist, then at that point, what you would want to do, on the Psychology Today search, is email. And email like 5 of them. If you got your top 1 or 2 that you want to get in to see, that's great, but have some ideas of backups. So now the email is sent, and basically what are you saying in the email? You're just saying, hey, I saw your profile on the internet and I need counseling. I would love to meet with you. It could be as simple as that. You can give more background. If you have questions, ask questions. One of the questions that comes up a lot is like, does my therapist take insurance and all those things? Ask anything that you have a question about up front. It's important to just ask it, get it out there. After you get your questions answered, the next step is getting into the appointment. Once you tackle that, it gets so much easier. I can't even tell you, because it is. The hardest part is usually reaching out. It takes some courage to do that. After you've reached out, you have to wait back and get in coordination and finding a time that works and making sure that the finances line up. All of those parts. Once you knock that out, the cool thing is that all there is to do next is just to basically show up. And when you show up, I think within 1 to 2 sessions, you're going to know if that person's a good fit. I think it's in half of a session, if that person's a good fit. Not that with time might reveal some more truth to that, because you might feel like you hit it off really well with someone, but if it's not going anywhere and you feel like you're not growing and they're not listening to that, then certainly, that's something that you have to be mindful of. But I think you'll know if it's a good fit right off the bat. And one of the things that I'll tell you is from the amazing mentor of mine, Dr. Sean Davis, who earlier actually was tuning in here. Dr. Davis would always say through his common factors research that, therapeutic fit, that the fit that you have with your therapist is going to dictate a lot of success in that process. So you could have an amazing therapist, you could have someone that is really ready to change, but if they're not a good fit, they don't simply connect, or the way they attack problems, maybe the therapist is too analytical and the client is more emotional, and the client is craving emotional connection from the therapist and feeling like they're not getting it. Those lack of matching up, just like in any relationship, can lead to less positive outcomes. And positive outcomes in therapy is feeling better, feeling like you're actually getting somewhere, you're having more insight, you're having more clarity, you're reaching your goals. So those are all things that you should know off the bat. Do I click with this person? Do they seem to be getting and understanding what it is I'm trying to work on here? And another big thing, because this is a question that's coming for people related to the food stuff and the weight stuff, is I will add to that you do want a therapist who speaks the language and understands the nuances. And that's why we want to train these folks. And it's not just my training. I mean, there's tons of trainings out there to help familiarize people with eating disorders, for example, like binge eating disorder, if that's something you struggle with. But I think there's other dynamics that often people are not aware of like what it's like to be overweight in a weight-shaming society. Even if they know that there's a binge eating disorder, they're not sure necessarily what it feels like to go through that. So if you could find a therapist that speaks the language and they've either been through it themselves, they know what it's like to be overweight, they know what it's like to lose weight, they know what it's like to feel like there's this attachment to food that's deeper than just, what it is for other people, then that's a therapist that's really going to be a good fit for you too. And I do think that that's really important. Someone that gets it, someone that's either walked in your shoes or spent a lot of time with people who, who have been in your shoes. So they're really well trained and they've really had experience to really understand that struggle. So that is the process that I would say, again, that I would consider, again, if you're thinking about at some point in this program, which I know many of you guys are, should I go to therapy now? The Rewriting My Story program brought some things up in me that I want to now continue, and I want to have someone sit with me and work with me through. Should I go get therapy? The answer to that is it's a natural evolution in my mind for so many of us. I go to therapy. I actually started going to therapy when I was in high school. That's why I became a therapist. I had an amazing therapist, Dr. Robert Hoy, who's now up in Auburn. I recently reached out to him after 20 years I hadn't reached out to him. I reached out to him and just called him one day out of the blue and left him a message on his office phone just to say thank you, because he really inspired me. He definitely inspired me to become a therapist. So I still go to therapy, and I'll go for seasons or stretches, and it's so helpful to me. It's such a great tool. So I really encourage you to do that too. Lauren, I encourage you to do that. If you're thinking about it, do it. It is awesome. And if there's things before we end today's office hours, for any of you that are listening, if there's experiences that you've had or questions you've had about getting therapy, I'd be glad to answer that before we end today's office hours. But all I can do is encourage you. I can tell you that some of the most successful people I've seen in the program at some point have decided to go to therapy. They have used the program to help get them, a lot of times therapy can be intimidating, and when you go through this program you start to realize, wow, okay, this process isn't as scary as I thought it would be. It's actually empowering. I want to take it next level. Just like when you start to run for the first time at the gym and you're like, I might actually want to run a half marathon. And so, I think that it's really important to just let yourself kind of adjust as you go, and let the Rewrite My Story program be a good stepping stone for you guys to get the help that you need. And again, when I say get the help you need, we all need the help. It doesn't mean that something's wrong with you. Doesn't mean you're jacked up. Doesn't mean anything. It just means we all need extra level of help and support. And Lauren said, I've done it in the past and it was extremely helpful. Awesome. Before we go, anything specifically that you really got from that you think you probably wouldn't have gotten had you not gone to therapy? Sally is saying, I definitely could probably benefit from talking to someone. Yep, I think we all can. I really do, Sally. There's specific things right now in your life that are telling you that, but I really believe that we all could benefit from having someone in our lives who's non-biased to come and speak, who's trained to listen, who's trained to encourage, who's trained to help deconstruct problems, who's trained to get insight. I mean, that is so helpful. We are a society where I can't tell you how many times people will come to therapy and say to me, this is the first time I actually slowed down and thought about this. This is the first time. People say to me all the time, I knew you were going to ask me how I was feeling, and I hadn't considered that all week. And I just think to myself, if I wasn't a therapist, I would be in the same shoes. Just doing this work allows me to be more intentional about those things. But again, I totally get it. We live such fast-paced lives. I had to ask myself sometimes, how am I really doing? Some more feedback. Lauren, thank you for being active on here today. And you're saying steps 4 and 5 are really great. If you guys are not in the program, step 4 is unique outcomes. Step 5 is rewriting your story. And I'm so glad that those have been helpful. And if there's more that you want to share about that, please do so. I always read any comments that people are putting on here. And the feedback you give goes directly to how we continue to highlight the program, what works, what doesn't, and how we tweak it as we go. Yes, I've learned I should not should myself. Quit saying I should feel this or I should be this way. Yes, they're just, when it comes to our feelings and our thoughts, all there is just the existence of them. They exist. We accept them. I was saying today to someone, and I say this a lot, but insight is a bonus to your feelings and your thoughts. Understanding why you thought it, understanding why you felt it. If you can draw a connection and understanding that always makes us feel better, but we shouldn't rely on that to allow ourselves acceptance and compassion for what we feel and what we think. Too often we do. We have a bad dream and we go, oh, that was weird, that's strange, I'm not sure where that came from, but it left us feeling weird and funky all day. And instead of just accepting that we feel weird and funky, we feel like we shouldn't feel weird and funky because the dream was stupid and it didn't make any sense. And that's just one example of times that we can minimize our feelings and our thoughts rather than just simply accepting them for what they are. They're just experiences, embracing it, feeling it, living into it, and to just kind of own where we're at and give ourselves more permission to do that. Like Lauren is saying, it's not about what you should or you shouldn't do. It's just about what is happening for you. Exactly, accepting it. Yeah, acceptance is, I always say cliches are a cliche for a reason because someone said it a lot and someone else found the same truth to be true. And it's a cliche for a reason. Acceptance is everywhere right now. And the reason it is because the words acceptance and compassion are huge in different therapeutic movements. They're also huge in Eastern philosophy. They're also huge in Western philosophies that we have forgotten about. They're huge in secular and non-secular religions. So in backgrounds and philosophies. So it's been around for a long time. But acceptance and the compassion is the key to so much. And it's definitely the key when it comes to how we embrace our feelings and our thoughts. So, you guys, I'm going to run. Not literally. I'm going to hop inside here now and see the family. But again, I always appreciate you guys jumping on. If you have any other questions and you caught this office hours after they were live, you can still share it. You could still ask questions below, and we will still get to those questions. Again, today's office hours really focused on when do I know it's time to go to therapy, and also, how do I go about doing that? And so I hope that really helped you guys in understanding that. So yeah, thank you guys. Thank you, Sally, for tuning in. Thank you so much, Lauren, everyone else that watched here today. We will be back on Tuesday live from LA Airport, LAX, which is not the best airport. But at least I'll be looking forward to this visit to the airport. The visit's going to be fun. I'm going to go down there to visit one of my best friends and spend time with him and get a chance to do some meetings down there, which I'm excited about. But spending time at LAX is never fun, but at least I get to talk to Miss Chard herself. I get to talk to Bethany this week. She'll be my guest on Rewriting My Story, the Facebook Live interview show that we do every Tuesday night. That's going to be happening 1 hour later than normal. We're experimenting with times. So we're going to be doing it at 7 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Central. We're hoping that people on the West Coast will be a little more settled in at 7 o'clock. And we're hoping that people on the Central Time will just be like in that little purgatory time where they're like, I should go to bed, but I'm really not tired. I'm scrolling through Facebook. And so hopefully we'll give you something positive and productive to tune into. So that would be 9 o'clock Central Time. And if you're on the East Coast, 10 o'clock. So you're probably in the same boat in that way. But we're looking forward to it. And it'll be this Tuesday night. So tune in. Again, guys, thank you so much for all your support. Continue to, if this stuff is inspiring you or helping you, continue to share it. Continue to tell people about the program. We'd love to help as many people as we can. And, often it's through the word of mouth or referrals that get people actually thinking about change. And the program can be such a helpful tool for people. I've seen it happen, and I'm just excited to continue to watch it happening. So you guys have a great rest of your night, and I will talk to you guys on Tuesday.